What's up guys? Welcome to another episode of B is for Build. We are here working on our R35, R34 swap project. We're cutting the body off of an R35 GTR, and then we're cutting the body off of an R34 GTR, and then we're taking the R34 GTR body and gluing it onto the R35 body to make a wonderful car with the R35 powertrain and interior, but the R34 exterior. And in today's episode, we're dealing with the very large problem that an R35 GTR's wheelbase is 4 inches longer than an R34. So we gotta cut the car in half lengthwise? What's the opposite of lengthwise? Widthwise? We gotta cut it in half lengthwise. You know what? I don't think that part matters. I know which way I'm cutting it in half. Anyways, we gotta cut the car in half, and then we gotta take 4 inches out of it, and we gotta put it back together. We're gonna do that in today's episode. Stay tuned. Before we get down to work, I want to take a second out to thank our sponsor. Today's episode is proudly sponsored by SimpliSafe. SimpliSafe is an easy to use, totally customizable home security system that focuses equally on the most up-to-date tech and a reliable, relationship-focused service team. It's easy to rack up costs with other monitoring services. SimpliSafe's interactive monitoring system starts at only 50 cents a day. I personally became interested in home security after I had a couple of my cars get broken into and some parts stolen off of them. And so I wanted to get some cameras and a system for my home to feel a little bit more protected as well. And then I learned about SimpliSafe. I got one installed in my home. The setup is so easy and so quick. I can install one of these in no joke in about 10 minutes. We have SimpliSafe installed here and the house over there and in my house in Portland, so I'm very familiar with the system. See, we mounted our keypad right here next to the door, so when we leave we can hit this away button. We've had this system for over a year, so there's a little dirt around the buttons. This up here is a door open and close sensor, so it lights up when we leave. It makes a nice little ding so we know the door's been used. And we have the automatic lock and keypad, so I can give a friend a code or I can open this with the app and it'll unlock the door for somebody. As well as window sensors, HD cameras, and a lot more. And like I said before, the interactive monitoring service will call the police if it's alerted to anything. Their team of always-on professionals are easily reachable and they always keep lines of communication open for the most protective service. So if you're ready to up your home security game, check out the link in the top of the description, guys. You can get 20% off your entire home security system and your first month is free when you sign up for interactive home monitoring service. Just got to use the URL simplisafe.com/BisForBuild. Again, it's at the top of the description or it's on the screen here. Check it out, guys, to learn more. Huge thanks to SimpliSafe for sponsoring this episode. Let's get down to work. Getting started, first thing on my list is to clean up this back end. I have done enough talking about all the cutting. You guys get the idea. The bad stuff has to go. Let's cut it out. All right, the back chop is complete. We got all the mangled metal out of here, except for this part. I'm gonna take a little bit more time later on to do this. This whole rear deck needs to be replaced when we do that frame rail as well. This frame rail, all good, all the way back here to the mounting point for the subframe, all 100%. There's a little bit of mangled metal right here, so I just cut the bad stuff out so we can rebuild that. Basically, this deck is gonna get re-extended back to here, and we'll rebuild all of that, going into a new rear impact bar, basically a new rear bumper. So that's awesome, it's all cut out. Finally got all the bad metal out of there. Only made one mistake, accidental cut through here, that we can just weld that back together. That's basically the rear support for the shock tower that I want to build back in over here. All right, now that the back's done, it's time to jump into the interior. So the game plan is to cut the car in half right around here. So we got to remove as much of this interior as we can. At minimum, we got to have the seats and the carpeting and the center console out. We may remove the dash, we're not sure, but we're just going to go ahead and start by removing these seats. The seats are out. looks good. Lots of room to take interior out, but you can see that we have the center console, and then that kind of leads up into the dashboard to be able to take this carpeting out. We need to get this dashboard out anyways because we're probably gonna have to shorten it a little bit, and I want to be doing that with the new body on there rather than what we did last time with the Mustang, which was like cut and then test fit the new body. So we've got the bolt organizer out because this is now serious business. We've got Kyle as well. So Kyle's been working on the background on the Jumpicon stuff. Also, him and Oscar replaced the transmission in the truck. So the Raptor's up and running, and the Jumpicon is being managed by Kyle right now. And we got triple bypass shocks being made right now for the Jumpicon, but there's some wait time on the creation of those. So we're kind of just like prepping for our new shocks and planning on racing September 11th, Hoopty Cross in Albany. If anybody wants to come out and race with us, it's a very fun time. So anyways, that's what's going on with the Jumpicon and the boat. And the GTR now, next steps, these two guys are gonna just get after this center area right here and the dashboard. There's not a lot of information online about how to remove a dashboard from a GTR, so we will find our way through it.
Hammers.
Hammers? Jeremy Clarkson it? Just all hammers? I would say I'll give you money if you can get it out with all hammers, but I don't want to see what my car looks like afterwards. So
like the big pry bar.
The big pry bar, yeah, the spear bar. That can get it out, but you know, this is a keeper piece, so be gentle, boys. Guys made quick work of this interior removal. They got the center console already out, a bunch of different stuff from the dash out, a lot of the electronics like the CD, the mouth, just the mouth, some of the switches for the options on the suspension, and then the main guy right there. So they're just continuing to work through it, just a lot of different little bolts and stuff like that. And we're gonna keep focused on the dash, steering wheel area. Hopefully we can get this dash out. Got the dashboard out clean, so this is fantastic. This is going to allow us to test fit that new body on here, not worrying about the dashboard. And then when we have it all on here, however the new body comes on, then we trim the dashboard and put it right back in. Also, if we want to do roll caging, we can just tie off right there. So that's fantastic. Moving on to the carpeting and any of this center console stuff, I don't think we need to take any of that out really right now. So we're just going to go ahead and underneath the carpeting, there's a lot of foam and a lot of different sections. We got to get all of this out of here so we can fully expose the floorboards and aim for the right spot that we want to make our line and start figuring out where we want to cut. What in the world is this thing? Oscar, do you know what this is? It looks like it takes a key and then it runs to a line.
So I know what it's for. But
trunk pop, huh?
Yeah.
Trunk pop?
It's so you can lock your trunk. Kyle actually pointed it out to me earlier.
You can lock your trunk from what? From within the car?
Yeah, from the passenger side of the car, yeah.
From the passenger side, you just reach underneath your seat and lock it?
It's a way of popping it.
I think it's a way of popping it, yeah, because that's the pop cable. Yeah, this is the pop cable. Wow, that's interesting. Emergency trunk pop from underneath the car. Now, are we going to keep that functionality when we move to the R34? No, it takes too much time. Good answer, Oscar. All right, so we've got the carpet out of here. We founding all sorts of fun things. Found that as well. There's an amp on this side. We took that out. We'll go ahead and really quickly uninstall this stuff. Right now it's looking like this is our zone for the cutting to happen. Right after the frame rail stops being wide right here, this is looking like a pretty sweet spot to be cutting. So we're jacking up the car now. I'm gonna put it on a bunch of jack stands because half of them fail these days. Oh, by the way, there is a guy that had a really unfortunate accident. His name's Evan Brown. He's actually local to us. He works right down the street. He does amazing stuff, mainly around BMWs and stuff like that. He had an accident where his car fell off the jack stands. He shorted a wire to the starter and it tried to kickstart the car, and then that knocked it off the jack stands, and the car landed on him. He's been in the hospital for a really long time. There's a GoFundMe to help out with his medical bills. The link will be in the description below. If you got some extra money, that'd be a great place to donate it. We've got the car jacked up. There is a ton of stuff underneath there where we need to cut through. This is going to be our spot. Let's take them out one by one. First up, exhaust. Now that the exhaust is down, I'll show you guys underneath here a little bit. So we're trying to get rid of everything throughout here so we can cut it all in half. I can't show you all of it because we're really close to the underside of the car. So this guy's got to come out now, and the drive shaft. So there's the rear drive shaft, that's the carbon composite one that Oscar's touching, and that's the front drive shaft right there. So the engine goes to that one, shoots the power to the rear, and then the transmission sends it back to this one and sends the power to the front. We're going to maintain all-wheel driveness on the R34, so we got to keep all these, and then we're going to go get these remade shorter. But first we got to get them out. So removal of this guy right here, and then both the drive shafts. Oh, wait, before we can do that, we got to take all the skid plates off. There's one in the front, one in the back. There's just a million little bolts. Take both of those out too. Got the drive shafts out. This is the rear drive shaft, the bigger one. This is the front drive shaft, meaning this drives the front wheels, this drives the rear wheels. So when we come underneath the car, you can see that we have a bunch of lines right here. One of these looks to be like a fuel send line, and then one might be a return and one's an evap, and then we have two brake lines. So these all need to come out of here. And then if I take you over here, you can see this line right here. Now it runs to the front, and we're not exactly sure why. And then it goes back here, and it's dark and we're halfway upside down, so oh well. Anyways, it goes to a transcooler back there. I'm not really sure why it runs to the front, so we got to figure out why it runs to the front, and then we got to try and detach these fuel lines from the front, so we get to do a little bit of work not under the car. Yay! Alright guys, so we detached the fuel lines from inside the cabin, running all the way underneath, and detached them all the way back, and what you saw back here was the detachment from the fuel pump. Now, after that, we had to cut the fuel lines. We're going to replace them with AN lines, so we got adapters. They sell adapters online, you can find them very easily, to go from this type of a fitting to AN. They're everywhere, you can find them, they're very inexpensive. So we're going to be running AN lines so we can have the proper length, we won't have any slack. So Oscar cut that line and decided to use the bolt bucket as a fuel catch. I mean, it's better than nothing. Now the interesting thing is Oscar thinks this smells like E85. I haven't, yeah, I think it smells like E85 too. So one other interesting thing that we found is this guy. This is the fuel, either high pressure line or return line. It bolts in back here to the fuel rail. It was completely disconnected. So this car was not running when it went to the auction. This is the last piece of the puzzle to say for sure somebody went through this car before we got it. And this clip is missing its internal retainer. So if you would have pressurized this fuel system, this would have popped right off. What we're thinking is it's possible that a flex fuel sensor came off of this thing. There's a flex fuel sensor in between here and the fuel line. And also, if you guys remember in the last episode, I said when I was coming back here, it felt like a lot of these body panels were coming off, or the interior panels were coming off very easily. And I think that's because they could have potentially been going after maybe a fuel pump back here or something like that. We're not sure. So we have a lot of kind of investigation to do. And I would also say at this point, now that we've found so many weird things unplugged and different things that have been ran through, once we go to start this car, it's most likely not going to start, and it's going to be a diagnostic nightmare for us to figure out what's wrong because we have no idea what the previous owner did to it before we got it. But if it's on E85, that means that, and we don't have a flex fuel sensor anymore, that means that for sure we're going to have to drain the fuel tanks, and we got to get a tune.
Should have a non-E85 tune on it too.
We don't know how to switch between the tunes.
No.
We can do the default thing. Oscar said, I don't know if you guys could hear that, it should have a non-E85 tune on it, which is true. To switch through the tunes, there's a default sequence of buttons that you hit on the steering wheel. It might work. So we'll have to figure out. Hey, if this was anybody's car and we haven't talked too much shit about you on the internet so far, just send me an email, man. I'd love to know what's going on with it. Anyways, now that we got the fuel lines cut, we want to get some of this wiring out of the way. So if we were to cut it right now, all the wiring would be holding the car together. So we're going to move all the wiring that's in the rear of the car and move it neatly, kind of push it forward to the front half of the car. We've got all the wiring from the rear of the car, so it went through the trunk and then down and then underneath to some trans stuff. We got all that unplugged, ran all the way back through, and all the wiring is now with the front of the car. So there is now nothing on this car that connects the back to the front. This is just sheet metal running right through here underneath, and we're ready to make the chop. So we're gonna mount some lasers onto the roof, shoot a beam down, and hopefully get a really nice straight edge. And then, wait, we don't know how much to cut out.
We need to figure out how much to cut.
Yeah. All right, first let's take a trip to R34 land. Let's go look at the R34 GTR and get an exact measurement of the width of that car's wheelbase. 104 and 5/8 inches. 109 and 3/8 inches. Let's do some quick maths here. All right, it's been a little bit since we've done elementary school math, but we got it down. We take the 109 and however many eighths there was, and then we subtracted 1 from the 9, etc., etc. 4 3/4 inches is what we got to cut out of this car. All right, time to strap up the lasers. The lines have been drawn. So we mounted a laser up there on a magnet, and then we made sure it was using a plumb bob exactly directly over where we needed to draw the line. And then we matched it up with where we wanted our starting point, which was a equal spot on the frame from each side to each side. So we have a perfectly straight line running all the way through the middle section of the car here. And then from there we used some digital calipers, came off the 4.75 inches that we needed to, and made our second line. So we got some fancy new saws. You guys have seen me using this one to cut this whole car apart, and it's worked like a charm. And Harbor Freight actually sent us this 20 volt Hercules cordless one out to test out as well. After using their stuff for about half a decade, we finally got that email that's like, hey, Views for Build, we like what you guys do. How can we help? So I'm really happy to say that they've been sending us some stuff. We've been trying it out. You're gonna see a lot more of it in the future. You know, we built pretty much all our cars with Harbor Freight tools, so I guess it's not a huge change. I think we're just gonna get some of their fancier tools. So thanks, Harbor Freight. All right, now let's cut the car in half. Oscar, we did it! We cut the GTR in half. Guys, my cutting skills are on point. So, actually we made a very straight line. We ran into some bad luck and we cut exactly where there was like a pocket in the frame rail. But if you look on Oscar's, you can see that there's this little protrusion inside the pocket, like this little dimple thing. I cut so straight. I just cut mine mine right off. I'm very proud of my cutting, guys. We made a nice straight line. We got a great straight cut out of this thing. This is definitely a B is for build first, but we're really happy about this. So the weight is weird. You would think that because the engine's over there that it would want to tip this way, but it actually wants to tip down. So both sides wanted to go down and collapse in. So we've got it on the rollies over here so we can roll the back around. We got the front on some jack stands. Guys, we officially cut the R35 GTR in half. All right, guys, we're gonna wrap this up right here. Thank you guys so much for watching. In the next episode, we're gonna cut the rest of that out and weld this car back together 4.75 inches shorter. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any episodes in this build series. And that's it. See you on the next one. Peace!